Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while. I keep making these promises that I'll post every week, but I just can't keep up with it right now. But again, I'm back now, and in this video, I'll be showing you how I created this cyborg. So stick around. Now, I don't do portraits that often, so the only reason why I did this is because there was a contest hosted by Mr. 23 last month, and the theme for the month was to create a cyborg. So I just gave it a shot and I ended up getting 7th place, so I'm really happy with that, and congratulations to all those who participated. So this is not going to be an in-depth tutorial, and the reason is because he obviously did a video on his channel and I don't want to take anything away from it. So if you want to check out his video, I'll put a link to that in the description so you can check it out. So in this video, what I'll be focusing on is not on the cyborg part, because you can learn that from his tutorial. I'm gonna be focusing more on other parts. So yeah, we'll see where that takes us, and let's get straight into the video. Okay, so as usual, I have color coded the layers over here. So all the orange ones represents the orange light and the blue ones represents the blue light, and the subject over here is color coded as green, and the Christmas hat over here is in red. Yeah, that's pretty much it, because I used a lot of images for this one. So as you can see that I used about 7 images in total. And for the main subject, I used this stock image, and for the cyborg part, I used this image, and I also changed part of his arm into this sword-like thing because I wanted to make it seem like the Terminator, so you know, I just went with it. And for the Christmas hat, I used this image and this one for the particles, and this I used for the background. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I think we got everything covered. Alright, so I started off with this stock image, and then I selected the subject from this image, and for that I used the object selection tool. You can pretty much use any selection tool that you want. The pen tool would be the best option, obviously, because of the precision it offers. But anyway, after I selected the subject, I moved it onto a new layer. And after that, it would look something like this. So before going forward, I almost forgot about the background, so that's actually where I started from. So let's go to the background layers. So in this group, I got the original background, or the stock image that I used as the background. So all I did here is add a Gaussian blur to this image, and I used a value of around 26. So basically what I wanted to do here was to create a depth of field, because the depth of field ensures that the main subject is in focus. Alright, so now we're done with that, we can go back to the model again. Alright, so we're back to the model again, and as you can see, this image is a bit too bright, so we want to make this image darker. So for that, I added an exposure layer on top, and then I used the layer mask to remove the exposure from over this region. And at this point in time, it's all about visualizing where you want the light to be coming from, and if the light hits the subject over here, then you would obviously have a bit of shadows over here. So that's basically what I did here, and after that I added a few color balance layers, hue saturation adjustment layers to make adjustments and to get the right colors. And like I said, it's about visualizing what colors you want, and I wanted this side to be on the warmer side, and I wanted this side to be a little bit on the cooler side. And you will see that when I add more shadows and highlights. And I'll be adding more orange light and blue light to kind of make that distinction between warm and cold. And so you'll see that as I move along. And after that, I added the stock image of this sword over here, and I used the layer mask to erase the part of the sword. I placed it here in this position because I wanted the arm to kind of extend into the sword. And after that, I erased some bits and pieces from here and there, and I kept adding a few things just to get the look right, because I was not happy with the sleeves and how it looked, so I had to make some adjustments. So these layers over here are some fine adjustments that I made on top, and yeah, that's basically it with the model. Alright, so I left some of these layers invisible because we'll be coming back to them later on. So for now, we'll just leave it like that, and we'll move on to the next part, which is adding the cyborg. And for the cyborg part, I used this image, and to be more specific, I used its head. If I disable this layer mask, you'll be able to see that I used this region. I learned this technique from Mr. 23, so like I said, I'm not gonna go into detail about the process because he has a very good tutorial on his channel, and I don't want to take anything away from his video. So just to do a brief recap of what I done here in this group. So basically, I added a layer mask and I filled it with black, and then using the lasso tool, I carved out this shape and I erased that part from the layer mask. So what happens then is that whatever I add within this group, it will only affect this region or this shape. And I also added a bevel layer style to the group. And yeah, that's basically what I did here. And after that, I added the shadows and highlights just so that the lighting and the shadows matched the environment of the image. And once I was done with the cyborg part, I moved on to the next part, which was adding the Christmas hat, because I was editing this during Christmas or around that period. So I thought I might as well, do something Christmas related. And for that, I used this image and I borrowed it from this guy and I put it on top of the head of our model over here. And as you can see, this is too bright, so we would obviously have to make it a bit more darker to match the environment. And for that, I added an exposure layer and I reduced the exposure. And then I added a hue saturation adjustment layer and I reduced the saturation as well as the lightness. And I also added another exposure layer to kind of make the hat even more darker. Alright, so moving on. So now comes the fun part, which is adding all the background light and the shadows and the highlights and all that kind of stuff. And you could say that lighting is something that would make or break an artwork. So I'm gonna go ahead and add some lights. And like I said before, I'm gonna be focusing on the duality of color. So overall on this side, I'm gonna be using oranges or warm tones, and over on this side, I'm gonna be using blue or cooler tones. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that now. And for adding this light, what I used is a soft rounded brush with a very low flow. Alright, so we already added the backlight, but adding just the backlight isn't good enough because the backlight will obviously interact with the objects in the frame. So I'm gonna go over here into this group, and before I had left some of these layers invisible, so I'm gonna make them visible again. And as you can see, what I did on these layers is add some extra blues over here and some extra oranges over here to complement the colors over on this side as well as the other side, and also to create sort of a rim light over here. So now I'm gonna go to the Christmas hat, and like I did before, I'm gonna make these layers visible again, and you can see that I did the same thing over here as well. So yeah, that is pretty much it. And even though I wouldn't call myself an expert at lighting, it is important to make sure that you get the lighting right. It doesn't have to be perfect. Here in this scene, I used the same colors that I used for the backlight to create the rim light over here. And in that way, in my opinion, it looks much more appealing. That's pretty much it with the lighting. So we are almost done here, so I decided to add a hue saturation adjustment layer and I clipped it to the background layer, and then I reduced the lightness of it. And I also added a little bit of shadows over here on this side to kind of get a good balance between highlights as well as shadows. And then I added some particles, and for this I used a stock image from Pexels. I also added a lens flare, which was created using a lens flare brush that I had downloaded. And if you want to download a lens flare brush, you can pretty much find it anywhere. And then finally, I thought I'd add some extra light over here, so I went ahead and did that. And I also added some adjustment layers like brightness layers to enhance the image a little bit more. And we're done. And like I said before, if you want an in-depth tutorial on the cyborg part, you can go ahead and check out Mr. 23's video, which I'll put a link to in the description. So go ahead and check that out. And I guess that's it for this video. So hopefully I'll be posting another video next week. And also, if you enjoy what I do here on this channel, consider subscribing and feel free to leave a like and comment on this video as well. So I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.